Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to Agudath Israel Etz Ahayem Synagogue here in Montgomery, Alabama. I am Rabbi Scott Kramer. Thank you for joining me for this evening. This evening of vigilance, of sadness, of fear that we all feel. So let us try and come together in spirit as a community and contemplate what this week has meant to all of us. We begin page 5. We're praying out of Siddur Lev Shalem. We begin page 5 with Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu. Barchuni l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu. I apologize, I still have some lingering cough. We continue, page 11, Psalm 95. Lechu ner hanena, lechu ner hanena, lechu ner hanena ladonai. Lechu ner hanena, lechu ner hanena, lechu ner hanena ladonai. Naria, Naria, Letzor Yeshenu, Nikad Mafana Betoda. Naria, Naria, Letzor Yeshenu, Bizmirot Naria Alom. We continue in the English. Let us go and sing to Adonai. Let us trumpet praise to our protector. Filled with thanks, let us greet God, raising our voice in song. Great is Adonai, a greater sovereign than all other deities. God's hands formed the earth's deep. Mountain crests too are God's work. The sea is God's, for God made it. Dry land was fashioned by God's hands. Come then, let us bow and kneel. Let us bend our knees in the presence of Adonai who formed us. For Adonai is our God, and we are God's flock, sheep in God's caring hands. If only you would listen today to God's voice and not become hard-hearted like the people at Meribah, like that time at Massah in the desert, when your ancestors tried me and tested me, though they had seen what I had brought. For 40 years I was troubled by that generation, and I said, these are a people whose hearts have gone astray. They do not know my way, so in anger I swore they would not enter my rest. Arba'im shana kut bedor va'omaram toeh levavhem vehem lo yadid rachai asher nishbati v'api im yevahun el menuchati. Page 13, Psalm 96. Ashiru ladonai Shir Chadash, Shiru Ladonai, Kol haaretz, Shiru Ladonai, Baruch Shemo, Basru meyom leyom Yeshuato, Sapru vagoyim kivodo, Bechol ha'amim nifliotov. Ki gadol Adonai, O mehulal miyod, Norahu, Al ko Elohim, lai lai lai, Ki ko Elohe ha'amim elilim, V'Adonai shamayim mahasa, Od v'hadar lefanav, Oz v'tiferet b'mikdasho. Havu ladonai mishpachot amim, Havu ladonai kavod vos, Havu ladonai kevod shemo, Seu mincha, Uvahu lachatzerod av lai lai la, Shtachavu ladonai behadrat kodesh, Chila mipanav kol haaretz, Imrum vagoyim Adonai malach, Avtikun tevel balatimot, Yadina amim b'mei sharim, Yismechu hashamayim v'tagil haaretz, Ayiram haya amu melo, Yalo sadai, V'chol asher bo lai lai, Az yiranenu kol hatziyar, Lifnei Adonai kiva, Kiva lishpot haaretz, Yishpot tevel b'tzedek, V'yamim b'emunato, Yalai la lai lai, Yai la la lai lai, Yai lai lai lai, Yalai la lai la lai, Yai lai 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 lai, Yai lai lai lai. We continue page 15 with Psalm 97. Adonai reigns, let the earth be glad, the many distant lands rejoice. Clouds and thick darkness surround the divine, righteousness and justice secure God's throne. Fire goes before God, consuming besiegers round about. Flashes of lightning illumine the land. The earth watches and trembles. Mountains melt like wax at the approach of Adonai, at the approach of the Master of all the earth. The heavens tell of God's righteousness, and all the nations see God's glory. Worshippers of idols be shamed for praising false gods. All that is deemed supreme bow before God. Zion hears of it and rejoices. The cities of Judah exult as you, Adonai, pass judgment. You, Adonai, are above all that is earthly, exalted over all that is worshipped as divine. Those who love Adonai hate evil. God protects the lives of the faithful, saving them from the hands of the sinful. Light is sown for the righteous, and joy for the upright. Rejoice in Adonai, you righteous people, and thank God as you pronounce the divine holy name. Or zarula tzaddiku l'Yisrael simcha, simchu tzaddikim b'Adonai, v'hodu lezecher kadesho. Page 17, Psalm 98. Amizmor shiu l'Adonai, shir chadash, ki niflaot asa, Hoshia lo yemino, uzaroako, ocho adia Adonai Yeshuato, le'ena goyim, gilatzid kato, zachar chasta ve'emunato, levei Yisrael, ra'u cholav se aretz, Et Yeshuat Eloheinu, Horiu l'Adonai kol haaretz, Pitzchum ve'ranenu v'zameru, Zamru l'Adonai bechinar, bechinar v'kol zimera, Bechatzot rod v'kol shofar, Horiu lifnei HaMelech Adonai, Yiram hayam u'maloho, tevel v'yoshveva neharot yimchau chaf yachad harim yiranenu lifnei Adonai kivo lishbot haaretz yishbot tevel v'yamim b'meisharim yalai lalai 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 yalai lalai 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 la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 la. And continue page 19, Psalm 99. Adonai reigns, nations tremble. The one enthroned amidst the cherubim makes the world quake. Adonai is great in Zion above all nations. They shall acknowledge your name, saying, Great, all-inspiring, Holy One. A sovereign strength lies in the love of justice, and you forged the paths of truth, judging Jacob righteously and justly. Exalt Adonai our God, bow down before God the Holy One. Moses and Aaron among God's priests, and Samuel among those who called upon the divine name, called to you, and you answered them. You spoke to them from amidst the cloud. They kept your covenant and the law you gave them. You answered them, Adonai our God. You were a forgiving God to them, even as you punish them for their transgressions. Exalt Adonai our God and bow down at God's holy mountain, for Adonai our God is holy. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'ishtachavu lahar kadosho, ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. We rise, if you are able. Page 21, Psalm 29. Mizmor leDavid, havu l'Adonai b'nei Elim, havu l'Adonai kavod vos, havu l'Adonai kavod shemo, ishtachavu l'Adonai behadrat kodesh, kol Adonai al hamayim, ela kavod hirim Adonai hamayim rabim, kol Adonai ba'koach, kol Adonai behadar, kol Adonai shover arazim, Vaishaber Adonai et al zehalvanon. Vayarkidem kem haegel, Livanon v'siryon kem vendrehemim. Kol Adonai chotzev lavotesh, Kol Adonai yachil midbar, Yachil Adonai midbar kadesh, Kol Adonai yecholel ayalot, Vayechasap yarod, Uvehechalo kulo, Omer kavod, Adonai lamabul yashav, Yeshev Adonai melech leolam, Adonai oz liamu yitain, Adonai yivorech et amu v'shalom. You may be seated. We continue, page 23. Lecha dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nikabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad, hishmiyanu elam yuchad. Adonai echad u'shamo echad, l'shemo tiferet v'lihitila lecha dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nikabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, ki mikor abiracha, merosh mikedem nesucha, sof maaseh b'machshvat chila, lecha dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nikabela. Mikdash melech ir melucha, kumitzei mitocha hafecha, ravlach sheven בימי קבחם והוא יחמו עלייכם לה. לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה. התנערי מעפר קומי לבשי בגדי תפארתך עמי. היד בן ישי בית הלחמי קרבה אל נפשי גאלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי התעוררי כי באורי קומי אורי 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 שיר דברי כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה. לא תבושי ולא תקמי מה תשתוכחי ומה תהמי בך יחסו עניי עמי ונבנתה עיר אהלתי לה. לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה. והיו למשיסה שעועסייך ורחקו כל מבלייך יסיס עלייך אלוהייך כי עמך חתן כלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה. ימין ושמאל תפרוצי ואת אדוני תריצי. היד איש בן פרצי ונשמחה ונגילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה. We rise, we face towards the west to greet the Shabbat bride as we chant together the last stanza of Lecha Dodi, page 25. Boi v'shalom ateret bala gam besimcha uvetzala tochem unei am segula. Boi chala lecha dodi לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה. You may be seated. Page 27, Psalm 92. A psalm, the song of the day of Shabbat. It is good to thank you, Adonai, and sing to your name most high, to proclaim your love at daybreak, your faithfulness each night. Finger the lute, pluck the harp, let the sound of the lyre rise up. You gladden me with your deeds, Adonai, and I shall sing of your handiwork. How wonderful are your works, Adonai, how subtle your designs. The arrogant do not understand, the fool does not comprehend this. The wicked flourish like grass, and every evildoer blossoms, only to be destroyed forever. But you, Adonai, are exalted for all time. Surely your enemies, Adonai, surely your enemies will perish. All who commit evil will be scattered. As a wild bull raises up its horn, you raised my head high, anointed it with fresh oil. As my enemies gather against me, my gaze remains steady, for my ears listen and hear. The righteous flourish like the date palm, thrive like a cedar in Lebanon, planted in the house of Adonai. They flourish in our God's courtyards. In old age they remain fruitful, still fresh and bountiful. Proclaiming Adonai is upright, my rock, in whom there is no flaw. Tzadika tamar yifrach ki erez balvanon yiske chitulim bevet Adonai bechatzrot Eloheinu yafrichu od yenuvon Eva, Teshenim V'Hananim Yehu Lehagid, Ki Yashar Adonai Tzuri V'Lo Avlatabo. Psalm 93, page 29. Adonai is sovereign, robed in splendor, girded in strength. The earth stands firm, not to be dislodged. From earliest time you are enthroned. You are eternal. The rivers rise up, Adonai. The rivers raise up their roar. The rivers raise up their waves. Above the roar of the vast sea and the majestic breakers of the ocean, Adonai stands supreme in the heavens. In your house, beautiful in its holiness, your testimonies endure, Adonai, for all time. Again, Shabbat Shalom. When Jews pray, no matter where they are around the world, we face the city of Jerusalem. But what do you do if you are praying and you are located in Jerusalem itself? You face the place in Jerusalem where the temple stood. And what if you are right near where the temple stood? And what if, or what would one do when standing within the temple courts itself? You would face the innermost part of the temple, the holiest part of the temple, the Kodesh HaKodashim, the Holy of Holies, the area in the temple that was so holy that only the high priest would enter it, and only on Yom Kippur, in conditions of complete purity. And what would the high priest have seen there? And at the very center of the Kodesh Kodeshim was the Aron HaKodesh, the holy ark that contained the 2 tablets of the 10 Commandments. And immediately above the Aron was the Kaporet, a golden slab adorned with 2 golden images that were mirror images of each other, 2 images of winged beings called cheruvim. The Torah, these images faced each other, and in some way we cannot comprehend God's presence was said to dwell beneath those wings. But what did the cheruvim look like? In the Talmud, Rabbi Abahu answers this question. The word keruv really means karavia, like a child. In Babylonia, one refers to a child as Raviyah. Thus, when Jews turn in prayer toward the site of the Holy of Holies, we are facing the site of the 10 Commandments. We are facing the place where the presence of God used to dwell, and we are facing a place that was adorned by the faces of children. Could we expect otherwise? Are not children our world's holy of holies? Are not children the ones who are most full of the purity, the hopefulness, the optimism, and the potential for making our world ever more holy? The Holy of Holies was the innermost part of the temple, and even today, Rings of Jewish worshippers encircle the site every day around the world, turning towards it, placing it at the very center of our communal concern because of how much we treasure and wish to protect what the Holy of Holies contains. We treasure the Torah and seek to protect it, and we treasure children and we seek to protect them. Dear God, we have failed. Dear God, we have failed to protect what is most dear to us and to you. Dear God, we have failed to protect your Holy of Holies from danger. Dear God, it was our responsibility to build a society where the children, the Riviyah, whose faces overlook the Holy Ark, would be protected so that they could grow up to bring blessing into the world. It was our responsibility to protect Uzziah, Jose, Amory, Xavier, Neviah, Alethea, Tess Marie, Alexandria Ania, Layla, McKenna, Jace, Jayla Nicole, Ellie, Elishana, Annabelle, Jackie, Métis, Rogelio, and Miranda. Like all of our children, to make sure that no one would do to them harm. It was our responsibility to build a world where they could enjoy the blessings of youth, to fully grow into adulthood, and to plan for their bright futures. It was our responsibility to create a safe world for them and to face down anyone who would be indifferent about their safety, or anyone who would regard these losses as tolerable. It was our responsibility to learn the lessons of earlier breaches of the Holy of Holies, time and time and time again. God, may our words of regret not simply be idle thoughts and prayers, like they were the last time your Holy of Holies was breached. God, may these young souls find menucha nechona, appropriate tranquility, tachat kanfei Shechina, under the wings of the divine presence. And for the sake of our children, may you grant us the wisdom and the strength to do what is necessary, to keep your Holy of Holies from being pierced again. The really sad part of this is I gave these words to the Chamber of Commerce of Montgomery after Parkland. Shabbat Shalom. We continue with Ma'ariv, page 39a. Please rise for the call to worship, the Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach, Baruch Adonai HaMevorach, Le'olam Va'oed. You may be seated. Baruch et Adonai, our God, sovereign of time and space, whose word brings the evening dusk, whose wisdom opens the gates of dawn, whose understanding changes the day's division, whose will sets the succession of seasons and arranges the stars in their places in the sky, who creates day and night, who rolls light before darkness and darkness from light, who makes day pass into night, who distinguishes day from night. Adonai Tzavaot is your name, living and ever-present God. May your rule be with us forever and ever. Baruch atah Adonai, who brings each evening's dusk. Umahavir yom mevi laila, mavir ben yom vein laila Adonai Tzavaot shemo. El chai v'kayim tamid yimloch aleinu lam voed baruch atah Adonai Hamariv Aravim, page 40. Ahavat olam beit Yisrael amchavta Torah mitzvot chukim mishpatim otanu limadita Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shachveinu v'kumeinu nesiach bechukecha v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha uv'midotecha le'olam va'ed ki hem chayenu Orech Yameinu Uvahem Nege Yomam Valayla V'yavatachata Simimenu La'olamim Baruch atah Adonai Ohev Amro Yisrael Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha v'hayu advarim ha'ele asher nochi mitzavecha hayom na'al levavecha V'shinanatam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'aderech uv'shachpecha v'kumecha ukshartam liot al yadecha v'hayu letotofot peinenecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uv'hisharecha v'haya'im shemot tishma'u. Vayomer Adonai Moshe lemor daber el bnei Yisrael v'amarta lehem v'yasu lehem tzitzit al kanfei v'gdehem ledoratam v'natnu al tzitzit takana petil techelet v'haya lachem letzitzit v'oritem oto u'schartem et kol mitzvot Adonai v'asitem otam v'lo tatu acharei levavachem diacharei nechem asher temzonim achareihem leman dizgeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'item kadoshim leloechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti techem me'eretz Mitzrayim leot lachem le'elohim ani Adonai Elohechem Adonai Elohechem Emet, page 43a. This is our enduring affirmation binding on us that Adonai is our God, there is none other, and we, Israel, are God's people. God is our sovereign, redeeming us from earthly rulers, delivering us from the hand of all tyrants, bringing judgment upon our oppressors and just retribution upon all our mortal enemies, performing wonders beyond understanding and marvels beyond all reckoning. God places us among the living, not allowing our steps to falter, and leads us past the false altars of our enemies, exalting us above all those who hate us. Adonai avenged us with miracles before Pharaoh, offered signs and wonders in the land of Egypt. God brought Israel from its midst to lasting freedom and led them through the divided waters of the Sea of Reeds, as their pursuers and enemies drowned in the depths. God's children beheld the power of the divine. They praised and acknowledged God's name. Page 44. Umalchuto b'ratzum ki boleha, Moshe uvnei Yisrael chanishira, b'simcha rabba v'yamaru chulam, mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedor ba'kodesh, Nora tehilot, o seifele, malchutecha reuvenecha bo kiyam lifnei Moshe, zeli anu v'yamaru, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed, v'nehemar ki v'da Adonai et Yaakov, yugalag miad chazak mimenu, baruch et Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael, page 45. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom. Ushmotzeitenu l'chaim u'shlamiyata v'yad olam. U'fuos aleinu sukat shlomecha baruch et Adonai. Hapohet sukat shalom aleinu v'yal kol amo Yisrael v'yal Yerushalayim. Page 46. We rise if you are able. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'doratam barit olam. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'doratam barit olam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam, oti le'olam, oti le'olam. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'doratam barit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et ha-shamayim v'et ha'aretz. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'doratam barit olam. Uvayom ha'shvi shavat v'yinafash shavat v'yinafash shavat v'yinafash. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'doratam barit olam. We remain standing for the silent Amidah for Friday night, pages 47 through 52. Ose shalom bimrama, uyase shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imau amen. Yase shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, yase shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Yase shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Yase shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. We remain standing as the ark is open for Aleinu, page 56. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol latet gdula liotzer bereshit shalo asanu kugoyei haratzot v'lo samanu kamishmachot adama shalo sam chalkeinu kayim v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam v'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim l'fnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu Shehu notei shamayim v'yosid haaretz u'moshev yikaro b'shamayim imahu u'shchinatuso b'gavei meromnim u'Eloheinu einod emet malkeinu evazulato kakatu b'torato v'yadat hayam v'hashevota elavavecha Ki Adonai hu Elohim b'shamayim imal v'al haaretz mi tachat einod alkein nikaveh Adonai. Kagadu b'toratech Adonai imloch le'olam v'hoed v'nehemar v'haya Adonai l'melech al kol haaretz bayomahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad. You may be seated. This week, we will observe yahrzeits for Harry Glazer, Samuel Mussafer, Max Saracen, Betty Bell, Ephraim Taranto, Verna Wool, Meyer Halben, Jacob Leibovitz, Henrietta Mascarena, Annie Werfel, Sigmund Halben, Ruth Piha, Fanny S. Schofman, Revko Bonfeld, Samuel Lee Kramer, Esther Mendel, Jake Siegel, Jeanette Capoya, Levi Ben Delfino, and Margaret Rothschild Kling. And I was sent this remembrance this week by Yvette. My dad, Levi Martinez, Levi Ben Delfino, and Henrietta Mascarenas. It is interesting that my father's yahrzeit and my Aunt Henrietta's yahrzeit fall so closely together this year. First, this completes my father's 1-year anniversary since his death and completes 7 years since my aunt's death. I'm not going to say much more about more than the two were friends. When my father married my mother, her sister, Henrietta, was still a young kid. She was the 9th in a family of 10 kids, So needless to say, by the time my grandparents were ready to send my aunt to college, it was more than a tough sacrifice. So my dad stepped in and helped them with her tuition. She became a teacher with a master's degree, married, and had 4 kids of her own. I miss them both. My mother was very close to her baby sister. Thank you, Yvette. Those observing Yahrzeit and those who mourn, please rise and join me on page 58 for the Kaddish Tome, the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shmei Rabbah, b'yoma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayichon v'yamechon v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, b'agalav v'zman kariv v'yamaru amen, yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'mel maya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitchomam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudisha b'richu, Leilamin kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechamata, da'amiran v'yama v'yimaru amen, yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimaru amen. Oseh shalom b'mirmav, uyaseh shalom, aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimaru amen. You may be seated. And before I forget, since my son Justin is online, happy birthday. His birthday is tomorrow. Happy birthday, son. I'll be back tomorrow morning for Shabbat services at 9:30 a.m. We will also be on Zoom tomorrow night for Havdalah. And that's, again, via Zoom. If you did not get the link, please email me, ravmalki@gmail.com. That's ravmalki@gmail.com. Next Friday night, we are having a welcome back to Agudath Israel Etz Ahayem Shabbat dinner, a full chicken dinner. It is being brought to you by Linda Smith, Amy Leibovitz, and Chris Ginsburg, and others. We really are looking forward to having dinner together. Our student cantor, Carl Sayers, will also be here that weekend. So we'll have great music, great dinner together, and great community. So please RSVP by calling Linda or emailing her and letting her know how many people will be coming. So Linda knows how many chickens to make. And with that, we will conclude our service, page 211. Adon olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzir nivra li'et nasa v'chefso kol azay melech shemo nikra v'yacharei kichlot hakol levado yimloch nora V'hu haya, v'hu hoveh, v'hu yiyeh b'tifara, v'hu yiyeh b'tifara, v'hu echad v'yein sheni, l'ham shilo l'hachbira, b'li reishit, b'li taklit, v'lo ha'oz v'hamisra, v'lo ha'oz v'hamisra, v'hu eli v'chai go'ali, Tzur chavlim b'yetzara, v'hu nisi umanosli, menat kosi b'yom mekra, menat kosi b'yom mekra, b'yado afkid ruchi, b'yet ishan v'ya'ira, v'im ruchi geviyati, Adonai li v'lo ira, Adonai li v'lo ira. And I wish you a Shabbat Shalom for those near and far, See you tomorrow morning. Shabbat Shalom.